from NuCycle Energy, and they are definitely a company to watch. So they just got the best companies in Florida from Grow Florida, and they got a Florida Recycling Partnership Foundation and the Florida DEP Innovation in Recycling. So they are definitely a company that is fast growing and really taking this industry by charge. Mark?
Good afternoon. Oh, we'll try to use the microphone. I've been in front of one of these before. I do know they have to point in certain directions. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for, I just want to start out by saying actually thank you very much to SWIX, to the Southern Waste Information Exchange for including NuCycle Energy and myself in this conference. We are honored to be a part of this, and we're flattered to be a part of it because we are a little bit different. As you just heard, we won the award from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection for the most innovative company in recycling in Florida. We are happy to stand as Davy next to Goliath, who won the award for the best overall company in recycling in Florida. You may have heard of them because you're in Florida. They're called Publix. They're the best overall. We are happy to be their little brother, okay? Very much so. We do something unique, and that's why I said I'm honored and flattered to be here, because we don't actually recycle. And I just want to get that out of the bag right away, because you're all here at a recycling conference and expecting me to hear me speak about recycling. But as you can see to my right, we don't recycle. We do something that is a new word in the English language. I'm confident of that, unless, it's very hard to think of anything new. There is another company in Europe that uses that word, but I promise you that on A1A in Boca Raton, I thought of that word for this company in the summer of 2019. Before that time, it was called the Materials Lifecycle Management Company. Does anyone know what that meant? No, nor did I. So it hit it, and it called it MLMC, which told us even less about it, and we decided, or I decided with my team and our board of directors, to rename it as NuCycle Energy. What does it mean to NuCycle? As you're going to see in this deck, what it means to NuCycle is to take something and create a brand new product out of it, while the source material was, and I loved your terminology, landfill diversion, sir. Thank you for using that term, because we lived on that term for years, landfill diversion. That's exactly what we do. You're going to learn that. But because I spent so many years writing jingles for television, I've thrown out landfill diversion, and I've come up with landfill abatement and fossil fuel replacement, as you see may be the name of my talk, because that is really what we do. We are a landfill abatement firm, and what we abate from the landfill, we immediately make into a fuel. So I'm going to talk about that right now. Now, this is the only thing that I will read to you or ask that you read with me, because I'm not good at reading, and I think that it's more compelling to hear people talk about what they really know. But I do want you to hear this statement, because once I make this statement, the rest of my minutes will be redundant to this, but it will all really make sense once I've said it in a different way. We operate a Florida-based sustainability initiative. We are a manufacturing company. We manufacture an alternative energy fuel product. Those words are chosen very carefully. For some of you in the industry or in the audience who've heard the term alternative fuels, we don't make an alternative fuel. We make a primary fuel. It is able to replace coal on a one-to-one basis. That's what's unique about us. A biomass fuel can be used, for example, as a substitute for coal. No problem. You want to burn 10 tons of coal, but today you only want to burn 8 tons of coal. Fine, add 4 tons of biomass, and you get to the same energy value. But if you want to reduce your coal from 10 to 8 with us, you'll simply add 2 of us and go back to 10. We're a one-to-one replacement. And people talk to me and joke with me about the semantics of the word substitute and replacement, because I say we do not substitute for coal like those other fuels. We replace coal. And anyone who's not sure, I just say, well, I don't know. Do you remember that day in 3rd grade when you had a substitute teacher? Was that really as good as a replacement? I don't think so. So we stand on this, that what we do is replace fuel. So I said I would read this, but of course I'm too engaged with what NuCycle is. I'm too excited to be running it to actually read anything. I just want to share my thoughts, but I'll come back to this text. We have a proprietary and patented process. We manufacture our fuel from non-waste materials that were previously and have now been diverted from the landfill. Were destined and are now diverted from the landfill. 100% of our source material was landfill bound. This is not a joke. We do not add anything to that landfill bound material. No coagulants, no adhesives, no glues of any sort. And what we create, as you're going to see as I go forward, is, and it's in here right now, we're at that point, we create something called an Enviro-Fuel Cube, or an EFC. That Enviro-Fuel Cube has a non-waste determination from the United States Federal EPA. Not because of the cool stuff we do in our plant or because I know how to talk about it, but because of what it's made of. It's made of non-waste materials. Now, I'll share another slogan to go along with landfill, abatement, and fossil fuel replacement. This one I made up earlier. It's only waste if you waste it. I mean, if you take some stuff that can be qualified as waste and you put it in the back of a garbage truck, or you put it under your kitchen sink, or you take it to a landfill, we all know what that is. That's waste. If you divert it from the landfill, and it's pre-consumer material, we don't take garbage. Let me be very clear. We work only with paper, cardboard, plastic, and wood that has never, ever been defined as waste. The moment it's defined as waste, it is outside the realm of our United States Federal EPA determination, and we will tell you, please don't come onto our property. You cannot bring that material to us. It's a very specific material stream that we use. That's why it's called a non-waste fuel. And because of that, as I say in here, we are considered regulatorily as a manufacturing company. We are not a participant in the waste industry. We have no waste-oriented permits whatsoever. We have one permit in our plant in Plant City, Florida. It's an occupancy permit from the city of Plant City. That's it. Why are we able to do that? Because we have a letter from the EPA that says this is a comfort letter defining your fuel as a non-waste product. So you are a manufacturing company. You do not need any of the permits that relate to the waste industry. You're not a participant in the waste industry because you're using non-waste materials as your source. We took that letter to the Florida DEP. They read it. They said, okay, great. Here's your letter. We read those guys' letter. Here's our letter. Welcome to Florida. You're a manufacturing company. We took those two letters to Hillsborough County. And Hillsborough County read both letters and said, got it. We read the other guy's letters. Okay, fine. Here's our letter. Welcome to Hillsborough County as a manufacturing company who's not a participant in the waste industry. Don't you dare open without an occupancy permit from Plant City. And so we went to Plant City and they read all three letters and they said, great, here's your occupancy permit. So that's what makes us a little bit unique. Now, I said that we don't recycle, and I want to touch on that just one more time about what NuCycling is. NuCycling is the process of taking these things and making something brand new, and that thing, as I've shared, is a fuel product. It's called an Enviro-Fuel Cube. An Enviro-Fuel Cube is about the size of a Twinkie or a Snickers bar. It's about 4 inches long. It's about 1 inch in every dimension on the front of it. And we compress that we create that by bringing this material into our plant. And now I'll talk a little bit about process. We bring this material into our plant from, as I said, and I'll throw out some of this. Yes, we service all 9 of Walmart's distribution centers here in Florida. We're working with the Tampa and Orlando airports to bring in their materials. We work with Pepperidge Farm, Tropicana, Rooms to Go, Williams-Sonoma, Coca-Cola, Pepin, who's the Budweiser distributor here in Florida. We see that there are 5 silos of source material that we can use under our designation. They are commercial brands, of which I just mentioned several, institutional sites, of which I mentioned a few, waste aggregation companies, whom we love and work with every day. WM is on our property all day. So is Republic. So are Waste Connections. These are our partners in business. We work with recycling facilities because some of you may know, especially in this forum, I bet most of you know, that somewhere between 20 and 25% of what comes into a recycling facility ends up in the landfill. And we know that we can take about 50% of that 20 to 25%, meaning 10 to 12% of a recycler's annual stream. If they are a 10,000 ton a month recycling facility and I can take 50% of 20%, think about what that means. That's 1,000 tons a month into my facility that would have gone into the landfill from the 60-odd recycleries around Florida once we get to capacity and we're actually servicing the whole state. Right now we operate one 103,000 square foot plant 20 minutes outside of Tampa in Plant City, right off I-4, and we intend a plant in southern Florida, in Miami very soon, and we intend a plant in northern Florida equally as soon. We will have both of those plants operating within the next 20 to 24 months. We can operate that quickly because, again, we don't have to go to 3 to 5 years of waste industry permitting to build one of our facilities. What we need to do is find a building. It's got electricity in it. We bolt a bunch of stuff on the floor. We get an occupancy permit from the city, and we're ready to make fuel. Okay, so that's what we do, and I'll go back to my little document here. This is what we're doing, is replacing fossil fuels for energy-intensive industries, of which there are 3 main ones, and 2 of which are of most interest to me and NuCycle. I will share this. Those 3 industries are cement manufacturing, lime production, and electrical power generation. No question about it. Those are the three guys. And of those three, I said I would share that I'm more interested in two, and they are cement and electrical power. Because lime, the kilns in a lime production plant are very finicky relating to certain chemicals, halogens, more so than in cement plants. Cement plants need a very specific set of parameters to their fuel in order for it to work. And that's why we've been successful, because we have a very low threshold of halogens, which are chlorines, fluorines, and bromines that don't interact well in high heat kiln type environments. And so we have a threshold on that. We have a threshold of 5% on our moisture, which was a mistake by my predecessors contractually. It should be a 7% threshold, since that's what's expected in coal. It would be more parity. But anyway, we are restricted in moisture, restricted in halogen levels, and we must deliver a minimum of 10,000 BTU all day long, or our fuel doesn't function. It can't heat a cement kiln. And that's what sets us apart from a biomass fuel that might burn between 6,500 and 8,500 and 9,000 even, maybe, BTU. They can't heat a cement kiln to the point that they need to get to manufacture. We're able to, as I said, replace coal or natural gas with that same level of heat energy, and that's what makes us unique. So, having said all that, now I'll talk a little bit, I'll show you a few things, and we'll talk a little bit about this. And to do that, I won't change the slide on my computer, I'll change it on your view. I got it wrong the first time. So, here's what we're talking about. As I said, once I talked about what we do, some of this might seem redundant, but I want us all to understand it. What this is a two-sided coin, right? We have a double-edged sword here. We're out. So now I'll give you my metaphoric version of what we do, which I always spill out at some point in one of these talks. Every day, NuCycle Energy wakes up in the morning. Now, we've all heard something. All our lives, we've heard about killing two birds with one stone, haven't we? Every day, NuCycle Energy wakes up in the morning, it picks up one stone. It throws it at two birds. It does not kill any birds. We're a sustainability company. Come on. We don't kill anything. But we're not letting these birds fly. So our stone is our plant. It's our process. It's an incredible team. And by the way, everyone in this room, right now, you're invited to 2067 County Line Road in Plant City to visit NuCycle Energy and see if what I'm talking about is as real as I'm saying. Okay? Every one of you is invited, and you will see the hardest working team in show business when you walk in our building. I promise you, this is heavy labor that's going on in there, but it is very, very engineered and very, very specific and directed. So it's a two-sided coin. We are here to fight and divert, institute landfill diversion, and then at the same time use the product of and the fruits of that labor to replace fossil fuels for the sake of our great-great-grandchildren's atmosphere. It's very simple stuff. So what if we could do both of these things at the same time? Well, we seem to, I'm up here claiming we can, aren't I? So I think we can. We do landfill abatement. We do fossil fuel replacement. It speaks for itself. We're receiving these pre-consumer non-waste materials, not waste materials, and they are coming from commercial sites and industrial sites. We're taking them into a plant. Now let's talk about that for a moment. We take these materials into our plant through 30 loading docks, tractor-trailer trucks. We have a ramp where compactors and dumpsters dump onto a tipping floor, etc. That's all very traditional and similar to the entire industry, of course. And once they're in our plant, they're then blended in the most specific way possible. There's a gentleman who works for the company, been with us longer than anyone, named Joseph Knappich. He's a certified industrial hygienist. He's the source of our understanding of the science of what we do. And Joe oversees, when I took over running the company, and by the way, I do think, I've been running the company for about 3 years. My first day was the day that I looking back retroactively, understand that I won the job lottery because I get to run this company with an incredible team of people. Some of them are here today, and they'll all laugh at me after I'm done here. But Joe teaches a course to our workers called Joe's Pros. Okay, I named it Joe's Pros. It's a 13-module course so they can understand our materials and what we do in the process. And at a certain point, we have a set of cameras in our plant that we use for virtual tours. That was a gift. Was something that I learned very quickly around March 15th, 5 days after they closed the NBA, that we had to become a digitally connected company in a way that we'd never been before. So we use our internal cameras to do tours with people all over the country and the world. They can see our entire operation without ever having to walk into a building that I locked for over a year. Nobody came in that building unless you were an employee on shift. I'm talking about bank inspectors and insurance inspectors, and there's someone in the audience right now who can confirm that I wouldn't let them in the building. They had to stand at the top of our ramp and then walk to the doors by maintenance and then look in the windows. No way you guys are going in that building. You're not getting my people sick, and I'm not going to be responsible for them getting you sick. We were the strictest I was told by a state congressional representative that we had the strictest COVID protocols in the state of Florida that he'd ever encountered. We were very careful, and here's the good news. We never closed for 1 hour, we never closed for 15 minutes, we never closed for 15 seconds because of the way our team was willing to respond and support one another during COVID. Just never slowed us down. It did cause a lot of stress, trust me. We had people working double shifts or 1.5 shift weeks because the whole shift had been thrown out of the plant for 10 days because one guy had been exposed and therefore they're all out. And but as a team, we got through it together. So that's a little bit of a sidebar. But so we do think that we can do these two things together. And here's how we do it. And I've already said this, but you'll see it a little more graphically now. On the left side, you'll see the materials that we bring into our plant. And yes, that is our plant. You're looking at our plant. You're going to get a much better view before I'm done. I promise. I'm bringing you all to my plant during this meeting, okay? But not yet. I have a few more minutes. So that's our plant on the left, and on the right, there they are, the famous Enviro-Fuel cube, 4 inches long, 1 inch by 1 inch on its face, and it is made of paper, cardboard, plastic, and wood, and there is nothing in that cube that did not come to us as a piece of, thank you very much again, landfill diversion. There's nothing in there. We don't put anything to make it coagulate or turn into a cube. How do we do it? Because there's plastic in there. And the final stage, after going through a shredder that takes everything down to 10 inches maximum length, and a second, and then after, of course, and then under a metal separation system that I'm very proud and stunned to say, we have 100% ferrous metal separation in our plant. 100%, not 99.5. It's stunning, okay, that it works as well as it does. So it goes to a 10-inch shredder under the magnets, goes to a 4-inch shredder, another 12,000-pound electromagnet, and now it's going to make its way into a metering bin that I like to call a Cuisinart because it's got a huge auger screw, and it homogenizes everything, and then it makes it into our cubing system. Our cubing systems are IP-protected units. No one else in the world has units like these, and they form these cubes under 3,000 psi, and that's why they stay as cubes. Think of an extruder like a Play-Doh machine. I know there might be someone in here I learned that from. And you pushing that through, but under that intense pressure of 3,000 psi with plastic in there that has been heated by friction and pressure, that's what makes the cubes coagulate. We don't need to add any type of binding material of any sort, nothing at all. So this is how and from where we get these materials and what they are and what they are not. On the left side, you'll see in green, these are the things that we love to see all day long, and we can make fuel out of these that will save our great-great-grandchildren's atmosphere. On the right are the things that we absolutely cannot take. We don't want any PVC. I mentioned something about halogen levels in plastic earlier. Industry people will know what I mean by that. We don't take any glass. We don't take any metal. We cannot take any organics or they will corrode our equipment. Why don't we want metal, by the way? Well, there's this thing called friction, which has to do with sparks, and we make fuel, so we prefer to avoid that type of thing. So we're very, very stringent and very strident about what comes into the plant. But this is our list of materials, and these are all the types of businesses and institutions that we're able to work with in order to procure those materials. Now, this is one of my favorite slides, not in my deck, but in any deck. This was created for me by Joe Knappich, our certified industrial hygienist, because I was in a meeting in Pinellas County where some people asked me, so you say your fuel is better than coal. Like, it's better, it's cleaner, it's greener. What do you mean? Why? How much? Talk to us. And my answer was, I'm going to get right back to you about that because I didn't have the answer. That was pretty embarrassing. And so I had this chart created for us, and I don't know how well you can see those numbers, but I'm happy to share this with anyone, and there'll be a copy of it at our booth as well. But what it basically says is that if you follow those numbers, in the left column where it says EFC average, those are our third-party lab results, and on the far right are the EPA's results for the same toxins and the same materials, and you'll see that we have 1/60th the mercury, 1/60th the sulfur, 1/13th the lead, and 1/174th the arsenic of coal. I'm saying you put a pound of our fuel, excuse me, I wish it was mine. I wish I'd thought of this. I didn't. You take a pound of our fuel next to a pound of coal, there's your metrics. 1/60th the mercury, 1/60th the sulfur. This is your great-great-great-grandchildren's atmosphere we're talking about. Okay? It's serious. It's immensely greener and cleaner. But here comes the best part of all. The C word in the year 2023. What's everybody talking about? They're talking about carbon. Everybody's talking about carbon. Well, how does it work with the carbon? Are we any better in that area? Look at the top of the chart and you'll see. Our fuel is 65%, and this is third-party lab ASTM testing, 65% biogenically based carbon. I'm going to explain what I mean by that, I promise. And 35% fossil fuel or petroleum based carbon, meaning 65% of the mass of our fuel came to our plant as either cardboard, paper, or wood. It's sourced from a tree. It's biogenic. It's a fancy word for came from trees. 1/3 of our carbon came from plastic, and that 1/3 is what sets us apart from biomass fuels and allows us to replace coal, because it takes our BTU value up over 10,000, because plastics have a higher BTU than the wood, paper, and cardboard that we combine them with. This is very simple metrics and math. And so when you look at the comparison between the cleanliness at the bottom of the chart in terms of the toxins, that's wonderful. But the top part is what interests me the most. Right now in Europe, some of us may know that they're burning wood pellets as electrical generation fuel, and they're calling that a carbon neutral fuel. Why? Because if a tree falls in the woods and there's no one there to hear it, does it make a sound? Of course it does. Well, at least we think so. God, I hope so. So the world works the way we think it does. But what I know about that tree, I know this about that tree. 200 years and 1 day later, that tree will have fully decayed, and 100% of its carbon content will be in your great-great-grandchildren's atmosphere. That's God's design for trees, carbon, our atmosphere. This is how it works. It's not complicated. So a tree decays in the woods, its carbon goes up. If 2/3 of our fuel is biogenically based, we are, I'll share it with you, 2/3 carbon neutral in the jargon of today. That's what that means. When they burn a wood pellet in Europe and they call that carbon neutral fuel, and you say that our fuel is 2/3 biogenic, we are 2/3 carbon neutral and 1/3 petroleum-based carbon, no question about it. So when people ask me, for example, out in public, you mean you burn plastic? Ew. I say, well, we could burn that plastic or we could burn coal, okay? So 100% of the carbon in that coal could have stayed underground into perpetuity, never come into your great-grandchildren's atmosphere. If you burn our fuel, only 1/3 of the carbon that will be emitted could ever have been avoided, because 2/3 of it was biogenic. It was always going into the sky. Excuse me for that. I hope that makes sense. That's what's very unique about our fuel in terms of carbon. And industry loves that because, by the way, they're charging $51 for every ton of carbon emitted in Europe right now. So when you can go back to the authorities and say, well, I know you sent me a bill for $51, but I'm only going to send you a check for $17 because 2/3 of my carbon was biogenic and therefore was carbon neutral and not additive to the atmosphere, that's a good thing for industry. And it's a good thing for society, by the way. We're saving our great-great-grandchildren's atmosphere. It's that simple. So I backed up a little bit. This will be my last talking frame, and this is just a certificate to show you what we do for our suppliers. And I mentioned many. There are many more. It's incredible support we've gotten from America to do this. We supply each of our suppliers with a certificate showing them how many tons of material, how much landfill diversion they've accomplished, and how much fossil fuel replacement they've accomplished by the ton in each quarter of each year, and going back to their beginning with the program. You can see from the chart we've been doing this since 2020, and we supply this to each one of our suppliers so that they can show their own shareholders, their own teenage children perhaps, that they're doing something good, that they've gotten involved in a good project. Okay, so having said all that, I hope I have about 4 minutes left. Am I done? I'm done. Well, that's great. Perfect. So there is a video. Here's my, I'm going to take 20 seconds of my minute, which I'm already over. There's a video that I wanted to share with all of you, and I knew I might not, because once I get talking about NuCycle, I get excited about sharing about NuCycle. I love this company. I'm very lucky to be doing this. Everyone who works in the company feels the same way. I promise you. There's 3 of my team in here. You find them and ask them what they think about this company. We are stunningly fortunate to be doing this. We love what we do. So I'm not surprised that I overtalked on the video, because I only threw the video in there this morning. This is true confessions. If I only had 15 minutes worth of me inside to share with all of you, which is unlikely, I had the video to pad me for the 20 minutes. You don't need to see the video. I invite you all to go to NuCycleEnergy.com, and on the front of that website there's a little triangle. You click on it, you'll see the video that I didn't show you, and it will take you on a tour of our plant, and you will understand everything we do. On that note, once again, I thank Swix, and I thank all of you for finding out what NuCycle is and what we are about and trying to do. Thank you all very, very much.